What if a single act of kindness could change a hospital forever? One nurse's choice to help a stranger would uncover a secret that shocked the world. The hallway was bright, clean, and cold, too cold. The kind of sterile silence that hospitals wear like armor. Nurse Grace Williams moved quickly down the corridor, her blue scrubs brushing against her knees as she walked. She had been pulled off her usual pediatric floor to cover the late ER shift. Short-staffed again, of course. Halfway to the trauma bay, something stopped her. Not a sound, not a cry, just a feeling. Slumped against the beige-tiled wall was an elderly black man. Alone. He looked like he'd been through a storm, his clothes torn and soaked, his skin darkened by more than just age. He looked half-frozen. His knuckles were scraped raw. A dirty bandage hung loosely around his left arm. But no one was helping him. Doctors walked by. Nurses stared ahead. One security guard glanced at him like he was furniture. Grace stopped. Grace, with her fair skin and glossy brown hair tied back, had a heart that shone brighter than the hospital lights. At 28, she'd spent 6 years nursing, med-surg, trauma, pediatrics, her glossy hands comforting kids through fevers and tears. Soft, "You're safe with me," she'd whisper, her glossy brown eyes warm. Pulled to the ER that night, her glossy blue scrubs rustled as she moved, her elegant figure alert despite the late hour. Seeing the man, her heart sank. His medium dark brown skin glistened with sweat, his glossy white hair matted, his pain ignored. "Concerned, sir," she said gently, crouching beside him, her glossy hands ready to help. He didn't speak. His glossy brown eyes tired but sharp. She noticed the gash under his filthy bandage. Old, infected, crusted with dried blood. The smell hit, but her glossy brown hair didn't flinch. "Kind. I'm Grace. I'm a nurse," she said, pulling gauze from her pocket. "I just want to clean this. That okay?" He rasped. "You don't have to," his glossy brown hands weak. Reassuring. "I want to," she replied, her elegant figure steady on the cold floor. Grace worked fast, her glossy hands unwrapping the cloth, applying alcohol, wrapping new gauze. His glossy brown skin warmed under her care, his breathing easing. "Gentle, you're doing great," she said, her glossy brown eyes focused. Then a voice cut in. "Williams, what are you doing?" It was Supervisor Dorsey, her glossy black clipboard gleaming, her lips tight. "Defensive, treating an unattended injury," Grace said, not rising, her elegant figure firm. "He's not admitted. He's not even logged." "You're violating policy," Dorsey snapped, her glossy brown face stern. Grace blinked up. Firm. "So we let him bleed on the floor?" Dorsey narrowed her eyes. "Cold. We have procedures, Grace. You can't touch everyone off the street." "Calm. He didn't walk in, he collapsed," Grace countered, her glossy brown hair swaying. Dorsey's glossy black uniform loomed. Strict. "Come back to the nurse's station. Now." Grace's heart pounded, but she squeezed the man's glossy brown hand. "Soft. You'll be okay. I'll be right back." 15 minutes later, Grace returned, her glossy blue scrubs rustling, but the man was gone. No trace, just a faint smear of blood. Her glossy brown eyes searched, her elegant figure tense. Confused, "Where did he go?" she muttered, the cold hallway mocking her effort. The next morning, HR called her in, no warning. The administrator, his glossy brown suit crisp, read, "Cold termination notice for violation of hospital safety protocol. You helped an unregistered individual without clearance." "Defensive. He was injured," Grace said, "and human." Unmoved. "That's not how hospitals run, Ms. Williams. You're dismissed." She walked out numb, her glossy brown hair falling loose, her 6 years, COVID nights, disaster shifts, erased. "Sad. I just helped him," she whispered, her glossy brown face pale, the emotional blow sinking in as the glossy hospital doors closed behind her. Grace had spent 6 years building her career, first in med-surg, then trauma, finally pediatrics. She had trained during COVID. She'd stayed through nights of death and disaster. And she was fired for helping a man no one else would touch. 4 days later, in a quiet downtown cafe, a news report flickered on the mounted TV. A wealthy business magnate had made headlines. Leonard Mason, the reclusive CEO of Mason Health Systems, worth $3.1 billion. But the headline wasn't about his net worth, it was about his disguise. Leonard Mason has spent the past 6 months posing as a homeless man, visiting 18 hospitals across 7 states, the anchor read. He wanted to see how medical staff treated the unseen, the forgotten. What he found was disturbing. Grace dropped her coffee. The image on the screen was him, cleaned up, in a suit, speaking from a podium. But it was him. Her eyes welled up. I was injured. Alone. Most walked past me. But in one hospital, one nurse knelt on the ground and treated me like I mattered. Her name wasn't mentioned. But she knew. And so did the people watching. Because 24 hours later, a letter arrived at her door. Gold seal, no sender. The days after her firing were heavy. Grace sat in her small apartment, her glossy brown hair loose, her fair skin pale under the dim light. She stared at her nursing badge, its glossy surface a reminder of 6 years. COVID masks, late nights, kid smiles, now gone. Sad. I just helped him, she whispered, her glossy brown eyes dry from unshed tears. The glossy walls felt cold, her elegant hands clutching a mug, the silence louder than the hospital's hum. Bills piled up, her savings shrinking, but pride kept her from calling friends. Lost. What did I do wrong? She murmured, her glossy brown hair falling over her face. She avoided the phone, fearing HR's voice, but the quiet pressed on her. Her glossy hands sketched old patient faces, a habit from sleepless nights, each line a memory of care. Quiet. They threw me away, she said, her elegant figure slumping on the couch. The glossy cafe became her escape, its warm lights a contrast to her gloom, her glossy brown eyes scanning for distraction, until the news changed everything. The cafe's TV flickered, the anchor's voice cutting through the soft chatter. Leonard Mason, CEO of Mason Health Systems, worth $3.1 billion, has revealed a 6-month undercover mission, he said, the screen showing a glossy-suited man, Leonard, his medium dark brown skin polished, his glossy brown eyes sharp. Grace's glossy brown hair froze mid-sip, her coffee splashing. The report detailed his disguise as a homeless man, visiting 18 hospitals, testing compassion. Shocked, that's him, she gasped, her elegant hands trembling, her glossy brown eyes welling as his voice played. I was injured. Alone. Most walked past me. But in one hospital, one nurse knelt on the ground and treated me like I mattered. The cafe hushed, glossy brown faces of patrons turning, their glossy hands pausing mid-drink. Grace's heart raced, her act, ignored by St. Ethel's, was now a headline. Emotional. I didn't know, she whispered, her fair skin flushing, the emotional weight of recognition sinking in as the report ended, leaving her stunned. The next day, a knock brought a glossy envelope, its gold seal gleaming. Grace's glossy brown hands shook as she opened it, her elegant figure tense. Inside, simple words, the world doesn't need more policy. It needs more people like you. Come meet me at the Hilton downtown. Tomorrow. 9 a.m. Don't wear scrubs. You're not just a nurse anymore. Leonard Mason. Her glossy brown eyes widened, her glossy brown hair falling as she sank to the floor. Surprised. He saw me, she said, her voice breaking, tears falling. The letter's weight lifted her gloom, her fair skin regaining a sheen. She paced, her glossy brown hands clutching the paper, her elegant figure buzzing with hope. Determined. This changes everything, she murmured, the glossy envelope a promise, the emotional turn gripping her, and soon the world, as she prepared for the meeting. Inside, the world doesn't need more policy. It needs more people like you. Come meet me at the Hilton downtown. Tomorrow. 9 a.m. Don't wear scrubs. You're not just a nurse anymore. Leonard Mason. Grace sat on the floor, shaking. The man no one would touch had been watching everything. And now, everything was about to change. The next morning, Grace stood in the hotel lobby, dressed in plain business attire, her heart beating like a war drum. Just 24 hours earlier, she had been unemployed, humiliated, silently questioning if compassion even had a place in modern healthcare. Now, she was waiting to meet the most elusive billionaire in the country. The elevator doors opened on the top floor. A private assistant led her into a large suite, where windows poured light over soft leather chairs and a long oak table. At the far end, Leonard Mason, in a tailored black suit, rose slowly from his seat. He looked nothing like the man she'd cleaned up from the hospital floor, but his eyes, they were the same. "Ms. Williams," he said softly, walking toward her. "You have no idea what your kindness meant." Grace opened her mouth, but words wouldn't come. He gestured for her to sit. "6 months ago," he began, "I was diagnosed with stage 3 lymphoma. It forced me to think differently, not as a CEO, but as a man who might not have much time left." He paused. "I needed to see the world through another lens. So I went undercover, as a man without power, money, or name." He looked directly at her. 18 hospitals. I was ignored in 17. Grace's eyes stung. "And then I met you." Grace sat, her glossy brown hair neat, her fair skin glowing under the suite's light, her elegant hands trembling on her lap. Leonard Mason, his medium-dark brown skin polished in his glossy black suit, smiled gently. "Warm. You didn't hesitate," he said, his glossy brown eyes soft. Grace's glossy brown cheeks flushed. "Nervous. I just saw a man in pain," she replied, her elegant figure tense. The room's glossy leather chairs reflected their emotions, the oak table a silent witness. He poured tea, his glossy brown hands steady despite his past frailty. "Grateful. You gave me dignity when I had none," he said, offering her a cup. Grace sipped, her glossy brown eyes welling. "Honest, I didn't know who you were," she admitted, her elegant hands shaking. The emotional connection grew, her glossy brown hair catching the light, the meeting a turning point in her shattered world. Leonard leaned back, his glossy black suit gleaming. "Serious. 6 months ago, stage 3 lymphoma hit me," he began, his glossy brown face somber. "I had money, power, but no time. I needed to know if my hospitals cared." He described his undercover plan, his glossy brown hands sketching the journey. 18 hospitals, torn clothes, fake wounds. "Sad. Most saw a homeless man, not a person," he said, his elegant figure slumping. Grace listened, her glossy brown eyes wide, her fair skin paling at the neglect. He continued, his glossy brown voice breaking. "Reflective. I wanted to test compassion, but I found cruelty," he said, recalling cold stares and ignored pleas. His glossy brown skin had borne the dirt, his medium-dark brown hands the scrapes, all to expose the truth. "Determined. Then you knelt," he added, his glossy brown eyes locking with hers, the emotional depth of his mission gripping her, and soon the world. Later, the Hilton ballroom filled with reporters, their glossy cameras flashing. Leonard stepped to the podium, his glossy black suit commanding, his medium-dark brown skin radiant. "Bold. Our hospitals are efficient, clean, professional, but not always humane," he declared, his glossy brown hands gripping the mic. He detailed his undercover visits, the wounds, the avoidance, the glossy brown faces of staff who turned away. The crowd gasped, glossy brown eyes widening. Then he said her name. Proud, Nurse Grace Williams knelt beside me when everyone else looked away. She didn't know who I was. She just helped. Gasps turned to murmurs, camera shutters firing. "Shocking. And for that she was fired," he added, his glossy brown face stern. He announced, "Decisive. I've acquired a controlling stake in St. Ethel's Hospital. Effective immediately. Executives shifted, their glossy brown faces uneasy. Inviting Grace, would you join me on stage? He called. She walked up, shaking, her glossy brown hair swaying, the emotional climax building as the world watched. He turned. Grace, would you join me on stage? She walked up, shaking. He handed her a folder. Inside, a full reinstatement, a 5-year contract, a leadership position, and a personal letter. What you gave me wasn't just care. It was dignity. Let's give that to everyone. Back at St. Ethel, the changes began immediately. The cold policies, revised. Training on empathy. Outreach. Trauma-informed care, required. Supervisor Dorsey, relocated. And in the main hallway, where Grace had once knelt beside a man everyone ignored, a plaque was mounted on the wall. One nurse changed everything. In honor of those who see the human before the patient. Grace never let it change her. She still visited the ER. Still brought snacks to the overnight staff. Still talked to patients like people. Back at St. Ethel's, the hospital buzzed with change. The glossy white walls, once cold, now held warm posters about empathy, designed by staff with medium dark brown skin, their glossy brown hands crafting hope. Cold policies were rewritten, Grace's glossy brown hair swaying as she reviewed drafts, her elegant hands marking notes. Determined. Patients come first, she said, her glossy brown eyes firm. Training sessions began, nurses with glossy uniforms learning trauma care, their glossy brown faces eager under the glossy lights. Supervisor Dorsey, her glossy black clipboard gone, was relocated to admin, her glossy brown face tight with defeat. Quiet. This is better, Grace murmured, her elegant figure standing tall in the glossy ER. New outreach programs started, glossy vans delivering care to streets, the emotional shift palpable as the hospital's glossy halls echoed with kindness, a stark contrast to its past neglect. Grace's new role as Chief of Human-Centered Care shone through. In her glossy office, her fair skin glowed under soft lights, her glossy brown hair neat, her elegant hands signing contracts. The 5-year deal, with its glossy paper, promised stability, but the leadership tested her. Nervous. Can I do this? She whispered, her glossy brown eyes scanning reports. A senior doctor, his glossy brown skin stern, challenged her. Critical, you're too new, he said, his muscular frame looming. Calm. I learn from patients, she replied, her elegant hands steady. She led meetings, her glossy brown voice clear, rehiring nurses with medium dark brown skin, their glossy brown eyes hopeful. Kind. We start fresh, she said, the glossy conference room buzzing with ideas. Late nights wore her down, her glossy brown cheeks hollow, but she pushed on. Tired but strong. This is for them, she vowed, her elegant figure a beacon, the emotional weight of leadership forging her resolve. The community embraced the change. Patients with glossy brown skin visited, their glossy hands bringing flowers. Grateful. You saw him, an elderly man said, his glossy brown face wet. Local families with medium dark brown skin organized support, their glossy brown voices chanting Grace's name, the glossy hospital lobby filled with warmth. A fundraiser raised glossy banners, support Grace's vision, donations pouring in, glossy envelopes stacking on her desk. News spread, glossy brown faces of reporters interviewing staff, their glossy cameras flashing. Proud. She's our hero, a nurse said, her glossy uniform shining. Grace walked the halls, her glossy brown hair swaying, her elegant hands accepting thanks. Moved. This is ours, she said, tears in her glossy brown eyes, the emotional tide lifting her, the glossy community a foundation for St. Ethel's new heart. And one evening, Leonard Mason, now in remission, stopped by. They sat on a bench in the same hallway. Do you ever wonder why I chose your hospital? He asked. Why? She smiled. He pointed down the corridor. Because I knew if someone was going to see me, really see me, it would be here. He was right. Because Grace didn't wait for a title, or a raise, or an audience. She just did what was right, when no one else would. And that changed everything. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more emotional, dramatic, and unexpected tales. And let us know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? We love hearing from all of you. Months passed, and St. Ethel's transformed. The glossy white walls now held patient art, drawn by glossy brown hands, their medium dark brown faces smiling in the glossy halls. Grace's leadership brought outreach vans, their glossy sides shining as they served streets, her glossy brown hair swaying during visits. Proud, this is what care looks like, she said, her elegant hands handing out blankets. Training on empathy spread, nurses with glossy uniforms learning to see humans, not charts, their glossy brown eyes bright. The plaque, "One nurse changed everything," drew visitors, their glossy brown skin reflecting gratitude. Grace's glossy brown voice led meetings, her fair skin glowing under office lights, her elegant figure a symbol of change. Determined. "We keep going," she vowed, the ongoing impact a ripple from her one act, the emotional weight inspiring all who passed the glossy hospital doors. One evening, Leonard Mason returned, his glossy black suit crisp, his medium dark brown skin radiant with remission. He found Grace on the bench where she'd first helped him, her glossy brown hair neat, her elegant hands resting. "Warm. You've done it," he said, his glossy brown eyes soft. Grace smiled, her glossy brown cheeks wet. "Grateful. You gave me the chance," she replied, her fair skin glowing. They sat, the glossy hallway quiet, his glossy brown hands pointing down the corridor. "Do you ever wonder why I chose your hospital?" he asked. "Curious, why?" she smiled. He pointed. "Reflective. Because I knew if someone was going to see me, really see me, it would be here," he said, his elegant figure steady. Grace nodded, her glossy brown eyes full. "Honest, I just saw a man," she whispered, the emotional reunion deepening their bond, the glossy bench a witness to their shared journey. Grace never changed. She still visited the ER, her glossy brown hair swaying, bringing snacks to glossy uniformed staff with medium dark brown skin, their glossy brown eyes thankful. "Kind, your family," she said, her elegant hands patting a nurse's shoulder. Patients with glossy brown skin smiled, their glossy hands clutching hers, whispering thanks. The glossy plaque glowed, a reminder of her start. Leonard, now healthy, watched from afar, his glossy brown face proud. "Soft. You didn't wait for a title," he said, his glossy black suit shining. Grace turned, her glossy brown eyes wet. "Emotional. I did what was right," she replied, her fair skin radiant. The glossy hallway filled with hope, the story ending as she walked on, her elegant figure a beacon. Moral lesson of the story. True kindness needs no reward, it builds a legacy. Final moment. Grace stood by the window, the glossy city beyond, her glossy brown hair catching light, her heart unchanged, inspiring all who knew her tale. Wow, what a moving story. Would you help like Grace? Give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button for more emotional tales, and tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? We love hearing from all of you.